Check, check, check. Okay. So, what's up, everybody? I want to talk a little bit about WWE and some of the things they've been doing. First of all, though, yeah, I want to talk about WWE, some of the things they've been doing with the product. Van Housen. Okay, let's talk about Van Housen because we had this 3, 4, 5 week string of them hyping up this crate, with this new superstar that was going to hop out, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be the Undertaker. Oh, it's going to be Kane. It's going to be this, that. It's going to be someone from NXT or blah blah blah." You know, I can't verbally describe to you how disappointing it was when they finally reveal the crate. Like they open it up, and these 6 or 8 women walk out, and they're like sitting here doing the Thriller dance, and then he walks out, and I'm just like, what in the Scooby Doo villain BS is going on? Guy walks out, super scrawny. He's wearing one of those capes that look like something you would buy at like Party City, like maybe whenever you're a kid or whatever, and you got like your buddies and you're about to go out, and you're gonna try to go trick or treating. He had on like this really cheap cape like thing, and everybody and some people are going to say, oh, Van Housen's great, he's funny, he's more of he's more of like on the comedy side of things, he's great, he's funny, yada yada yada. That's all fine and great, but regardless, it was a terrible debut idea to have him be introduced the way that he was. And there's several things I could dive into about the product and how it's fallen off. But the main thing, like, I remember back, my first match I ever watched in WWE was Carlito versus Shelton Benjamin for the Intercontinental Championship. It was one of the Raw lottery draft pick deals where Carlito came on SmackDown, or maybe it was Raw, and he beat Shelton Benjamin for the Intercontinental title. First match I had ever watched. It was a great match, and I didn't, at the time I was a kid, I didn't know that, excuse me, that wrestling was fake, or fake's not a good term, scripted, whatever you want to call it. But when Carlito won that match, it like sparked something in me immediately, like, oh, like I just got it. Like I hated Carlito. Like I wanted Carlito to get smashed the next time. And I wanted Shelton Benjamin to get his title back, especially because my grandfather at the time, he was all into it. He swore up and down. The way he talked about it, he believed it was real, and I believed it was real. Just the way he would talk about it. But besides the point, I remember back in 2006, 2005, Ruthless Aggression era, you had Across the Nation playing, like this heavy hitting rock music to kick off the show. And then they had the video in the back of all the superstars. You had Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, The Rock. You had everybody back then. And by the time that entrance was over, or the signature to the show was over, and then the show kicks off with the pyro, and you got Jerry the King Lawler and JR commentating, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw." Like, dude, I was so ready to watch the first match. And then, back then, the quality of the matches were way better because we had all those superstars I just listed, just high quality, great in ring performers, that you were about to tune into and watch. And now what we have is then, now, forever together. Whatever the new signature is, it's awful. It is awful. And then there's no entrance anymore. There's no like signature to the show anymore. And then we have Michael Cole, who, people can say what they want about Michael Cole. I'm sick of Michael Cole. I'm sick of him. He was always like a bottom tier commentator to me, and that's just my opinion, and you can take it however you want. I can't get WWE out of my head because that's literally what he says every time he says WWE. But the product was so much better back then. The product was credible. You had well written stories. You had great matches. You had take uh take Edge for example. As a kid, I hated the bad guys. I really did. I hated the bad guys, but he was a good bad guy. He would his music would hit, and he would walk out with that long black cape looking thing. He kind of looked like a superhero, and he'd walk out there. He'd beat my favorite superstar. I remember whenever we had the elimination chamber, and I think it was, let's see, we got John Cena, Carlito, Kurt Angle, Chris Masters, Shawn Michaels, and I forget who else was there, but we had this like long match. It was just a bloody. It was such a gruesome match. And at the end, whenever John Cena finally eliminates, I think it was Carlito was the last one. You're like, yeah. Again, back then I loved John Cena. Back then I was a John Cena kid, and I loved John Cena. And he won the elimination chamber. And then you think the show's over, you're celebrating, and then it just music hits. Or I'm sorry, no. Vince comes out and says, wait a minute, folks. The show's not over. Edge is gonna cash in his Money in the Bank contract. His music hits, he comes out, and I'm just like, as a kid, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, I was devastated. And then he beats John Cena for the WWE Championship. Spears him. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Right then and there, in my heart, I hated Edge. But even as a kid, hating Edge, because he's the bad guy, I was like, I hate this stupid mother. And this damn theme song that just slaps. His theme song, regardless of how you felt about him, he had one of the best entrances of all time. I think he had the best theme song of all time. Dude, because he would beat my favorite superstars, and that theme song would just slap. To this day, I listen to that song when I'm working out. Great theme song. Great theme song. You knew who he was. He was the rated R superstar. He'd walk out, he had the black robe on, he's got the long hair, and he's just freaking out every time he thinks he's about to win, and he's the ultimate opportunist. And that, he capitalized on the Money in the Bank. On the Money in the Bank opportunity at Elimination Chamber, and that was like a perfect execution to his character because he was the ultimate opportunist, and damn sure was. He beat John Cena for the WWE Championship. I was distraught. I hated him. That is a good superstar. That is a good story that lends itself to who the character is. Okay? And then you fast forward all the way to 2026. You guys have this crate. Who's in the crate? Who's it going to be? Everybody's asking, who's going to be in the crate? Who's going to be in the crate? We're all excited about the crate. And then at Elimination Chamber, you open the crate. You got these 8 women that walk out. They stumble out of this crate, and they're doing this, and they're doing like this shitty little Thriller Michael Jackson dance, and then Van Housen walks out, and you're just like, huh? Like, who is this guy? Like, that's what this was for. That's what this was for. This guy walks out, and we're all thinking the same thing. We're like, who in the Scooby-Doo villain bullshit is this? Why did we wait 5 weeks or whatever it was for this? And a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's Van Housen. He's great. he's a comedian. He's funny. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I hear what you're saying, and we all saw the segment where he's backstage and he's talking to Adam Pearce, and it was funny. But they could have executed that 100 times. They set him up for failure at the very beginning when you had this crate idea. And he comes out of this crate, and everybody's like, who in the hell is this? Execution, man. Execution. When you go back to Edge beating John Cena for the WWE Championship after a gruesome Elimination Chamber match, and he beats him 1-2-3, that was good execution. Because Edge is the ultimate opportunist. He cashed in his money in the bank. He was one of the first, I think he was the first person to do it. That is good storytelling. That's a good way to introduce what a character is, who a character is. But everyone in the WWE now, they lack character. Take Gunther, for example. Gunther, he is the most bland, monotone, boring superstar in the ring, and I will take that to the grave. He's awful. And I'm not even hating on his in-ring ability. He's got in-ring ability. But who is he? Like, he walks out, his theme music hits, and you can hear every instrument, every hi-hat, you can hear everything in the song. Why? Because there is no pop. The crowd does not care about Gunther. Even whenever you have him beat John Cena, you retire John Cena, you retire AJ Styles. He's got heat, I'll give him that. But it's the kind of heat that like Logan Paul gets. We hate Logan Paul because we just don't like Logan Paul as a person on the outside, not the Maverick Logan Paul. Same thing with Gunther. It's like, dude, you're boring in the ring. Your promo, you can cut a promo, but you're so monotone and boring. Like, dude, do you know anyone who's going to say, man, I can't wait to go to WrestleMania and watch Gunther? Like, no, I'm not. I'm personally not. I do not like Gunther. I think he's boring. I think he's bland. Sami Zayn, I think he's boring. I think he's bland. Half the roster. Like, you got the Vision, right? You got the Vision. The Vision of what? What about that faction establishes this idea that you guys are these visionaries that got this master plan? You're one step ahead of everybody else on the roster. What about the Vision lends itself to that? You got Seth Rollins, right? He's the visionary. He's the architect. But is he? Because, okay, you take his theme song, Burn It Down. Burn it down. What are you burning down? You're a visionary. You're not a barn burner. What are you burning down? Why are you burning anything down? I don't get it. How are you an architect? What are you building? Because you didn't build anything in the Shield. You destroyed the Shield. You burned the Shield down. I give you that. But you can't be a visionary and a barn burner at the same time. Or maybe you can, but it's like, pick one. And it's like, you've got Braun Breaker. Who's Braun Breaker? If I was WWE and I was to package Braun Breaker, here's what you do. You already have the crowd that are barking. Every time you see Braun Breaker, it's ooh, ooh, ooh. They're all barking for Braun Breaker. Package him as like a junkyard dog style superstar. If it were up to me, if I was on creative, I'd say, all right, you're coming out in a vest. You're walking down. You're walking to. You're gonna have dogs. You're gonna be walking dogs down to the ring. You're gonna have two Rottweilers coming down to the ring. You're gonna have a wrench in this hand. You're gonna have a chain. You're gonna be the junkyard dog because everybody in the crowd is barking for you. Okay, that makes sense. You know, that's how you build a character to get. Who the hell is Braun Breaker right now? What? No, everything he does is random. His promos are random. He has a phenomenal spear. I'd always got. What is your character? Who are you? Who communicate to the audience who the character Braun Breaker is, because we don't know. We don't know. If you walk down to the ring with two Rockweilers, you got the chain on, the vest on, you got the wrench in your hand, you're the junkyard dog. You came here to scrap. And then maybe before you hit the spear, kind of like with Roman Reigns when he does the ooh-ah, you know, you could have him, you know, have the crowd start barking because they know the spear's coming. But no, they don't do that. Or you know, let's talk about Roman Reigns, right? When Roman Reigns lost the title to Cody Rhodes and just disappeared. Now let me back up. They had everything scouted out perfect. When it comes to, like, when The Rock came out on stage and they had the whole family tree of the Samoan dynasty, that was a moment where they could have capitalized and really dug into the lore of the Samoan dynasty. Okay? The Ulafala could mean something because they played it up as the Ulafala is this item that we bestow upon the chosen Samoan superstar to represent our family. Okay? When Roman Reigns loses the title, what they could have done is they could have had it where they have a cutscene. All the Samoans are sitting around at a round table, sitting like this. Maybe you have Rikishi or The Rock or whoever's in charge. They look at Roman and they go, "You disgraced the Samoan dynasty. And now you're exiled." Now you have a very clear reason for why Roman Reigns is off screen. He's exiled. And now you could repackage him. Because what you should have done, what you could have done, could have had Roman off in the wilderness somewhere. Maybe he's caged up. Maybe he hasn't eaten. Maybe he's scarred and he's, you know, maybe he's the outcast. He's been fending for himself in the wild somewhere. Okay? And maybe you have cutscenes 6 months after his disappearance and you see him running through the woods surviving and he's got a stick and he's fishing and he's just living off the land. You repackage him as the Samoan wild man because he's exiled. He lost everything. You can't take the tribal chief Roman Reigns without his backdrop of the bloodline. The tribal chief is not the tribal chief without the wise man and without the bloodline. He's just Roman Reigns. So how do you make it make sense when he doesn't have those things? You exile him. You make him a wild man. Okay. Maybe you have Cody Rhodes. Maybe he's cutting a promo. And maybe he says something he shouldn't about Roman Reigns. Maybe you have like a backstage segment, you know, where Roman Reigns gets drug off. Or maybe in the middle of his promo, you have a new theme song for Roman Reigns. He comes out, his hair's all messed up. He's scarred. Maybe he's even more lean than he usually is. Comes back, and he's this wild man Samoan who has lost his mind. Kind of like Umaga. Have him come back, he beats the hell out of Cody Rhodes. And his moves are different. Maybe instead of, you know, his standard moveset, maybe now he's more Dean Ambrose. He's like wailing on people. You know, maybe he's got a kendo stick that he crafted himself out in the wild and he's just beating the hell out of Cody Rhodes. I didn't go to school for character writing or TV scripts or anything like that. But it does not take a genius to not completely F up these superstars. I mean, I can't tell, like whenever The Rock came back. And he's in the ring with Cody Rhodes and John Cena. And then Travis Scott is there. John Cena has this huge heel turn. And we're all wondering what The Rock has to do with it. What does Travis Scott have to do with it? And then WWE just goes, would have been nice, but meh. Completely scrap it. Character building. What are y'all doing? Nothing y'all are doing is making sense. You can't just throw things together and then throw them away, and then 2 weeks before a pay-per-view throw something together and expect us to be receptive to it. Vince would have never done that. Vince McMahon would have never done that. I mean, and it's just ridiculous, man. It's completely ridiculous, and I know I'm bitching and moaning, but WWE used to be a lot better. It used to be a lot better. And another thing, let's talk about Austin Theory. You got a guy who has the physique. He has the athleticism. He has the in-ring ability. He sells better than anybody I've ever seen before. And his name is Austin Theory. Gets out there on the mic. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know who he is. I think he did this is what he did last week, and I wish he would have elaborated on it. He got on the mic and he said, I have a theory. Dude, that's your whole character. You're a theorist. Maybe you come out in a lab coat. Come out there and you go, I have a theory. And maybe you say something along the lines of, I have a theory that CM Punk was hitting the ending years of his career. And he had a midlife crisis. And he came back to the WWE and said, I'm going to be a good guy now. I'm going to make the fans love me. They've been cheering for me for so long. But deep down inside, CM Punk doesn't give a damn about anyone but himself. And then maybe you lead it into, you say, that's my theory. And believe me, it will be tested. Maybe you have him in the back. Maybe you have him in the back and he's like sitting at a desk and he's got like all these blueprints. And he's got sketches and diagrams of these superstars and their abilities and what they're good at and the moves they use and who they associate with. And maybe Austin Theory is like this guy who comes up with theories. He's like, well, maybe if I slip Logan the brass knucks, or maybe I distract CM Punk or whoever with a bracelet because we know that that's what he's sensitive to. Maybe that'll allow us an opening to win the match. That's my theory. So much you could do with that. There's so much you could do with it. There's so much potential. There's so much potential. But that's not what they're doing. Bronson Reed. Nothing to say about Bronson Reed. I don't know who he is. I don't care who he is. He's boring. He's completely boring. I'm trying to think of a superstar right now that I would just take and do something with, but it's just like, it's like they just come up with ideas and they just scrap, like with R-Truth. Comes back, cuts his hair. I'm Ron Killings now. Cut my hair. We don't see him since then. Don't know where he is, don't know what he's doing. He's supposed to be Ron Killings. What you should have did is you should have threw him in with the Street Profits. He should have been leading the Street Profits. He could have created a faction with the Street Profits. Maybe he's riding around in a limo. Maybe he's jumping people backstage. He's this new alter ego you haven't seen yet. But instead, you just cut his hair, and he kept doing what he always does. He just, John Cena's my biggest fan. What the hell are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Nothing y'all are doing is making sense. Nothing. Nothing y'all do makes sense at all. Why are you having Gunther retire all these great names in wrestling? And it's not like he's young. You know, he's on his way out the door in the next 5 to 6 years, I would say. And y'all are just feeding him legends to get all this heat. But no one cares. No one cares about Gunther. No one cares. I promise you, no one cares about Gunther at all. Shinsuke Nakamura. Have him backstage, Io Sky. Maybe 2 or 3 other people. You got them all in business suits. Maybe they ride in on some Hayabusa. You know, they come in on some motorcycles and they got like the leather on and they got the samurai swords. And you have this Yakuza like backdrop where they're the gangsters. They run WWE. They're here to wreak havoc. You know, maybe they come out and hit somebody with the butt of a samurai sword. You know, maybe they come out with some nunchucks. But no, I don't do anything with it at all. At all. And when you talk about Van Housen, rather than having this big crate idea, you know, maybe you just have him backstage. Maybe you have him backstage, and he just shows up. Back in the day, like Dolph Ziggler did, and he was like, "My name's Dolph Ziggler." No one knew who he was, but he made a name for himself, and then he had a debut, and it was great. You want to know what they didn't do? They didn't have a big ass crate backstage to get everybody freaking out. Who's it gonna be? Just to let us down at the PLE. It was lackluster. It wasn't that Van Housen was bad or is a bad superstar or that he isn't entertaining. It's the execution. I don't know what you're doing. You know? Like, what are y'all doing? It don't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. What else? Hold that thought.